My previous video was a top 10 list where I discussed the video game characters that I was most attracted to. 5 guys and 5 girls. But I'd like to admit to something to you right now. That was not what was originally going to be my Valentine's Day video. I was going to count down the best love stories in video games. But I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to list only good romances that did not entail the player picking from romance options. So, no Persona, no dating sims, most of BioWare is out, and goodbye Stardew Valley. I wanted to choose romances that were part of the narrative, even if it was just a subplot. But upon doing research, I realized one very important, indisputable fact. Despite the decades of video games that have been released, there haven't been a whole lot of even halfway decent love stories in video games. I went to Google to see what other people considered good romances in video games, and Mario and Peach? Really? Is that the best we've got? How sad is that? But what's even more sad is that in all the lists I perused, I saw very little mention of a couple that was definitely going to be on my list. Johnny and River from Freebird's game To the Moon. I realized then that I needed to draw attention to this beautiful story. When I told my friends that my next video was going to be about To the Moon, they all said the exact same thing. Mac, why are you texting me? The judge was very clear that this is in violation of the court order. Also, what the hell is To the Moon? Well, simply put, To the Moon is a visual novel game about 2 scientists as they help a dying man achieve his greatest wish. They do this by using a machine to go into his memories and adjust them so that he will remember events differently, so he will die believing that he achieved his dying wish. Now, if that premise sounds intriguing, great! Stop watching this video. I mean it. Stop watching this video and go play To the Moon. It goes on sale a lot on Steam, and I clocked in about 4 hours while capturing this footage, and that included me pausing to take notes. This is a visual novel game, which means that there is very little actual gameplay. It is at least 95% a pure story experience. I will start out talking about the main story premise and intro and what little gameplay there is, but after that, it's gonna be all spoilers all the time. Don't worry, I'll give you another warning once you're about to cross that bridge. As I've said, To the Moon is a visual novel that uses gorgeous pixel art to tell the story of 2 scientists who work for a company that can grant anybody's wish. Sort of. What they actually do is hook their client up to a machine, go back in their memories, and change how they remember events of their past that will push them in the direction to have that wish fulfilled, if only in their own mind. This is why a majority of their clients are the elderly who wish that they could go back and change the thing they regret the most. The client du jour is Johnny Wyles, who is dying of old age and wants nothing more than to go to the moon. Until recently, he lived with his wife, River, who passed away not long before. The story involves going backwards through Johnny's memories, reliving his moments with River, and finding the best memory to implant the strong desire to become an astronaut. Think of it as Eternal Sunshine meets Memento. You play the game as the 2 doctors as they walk around and interact with the area inside the memory. There are occasional mini-games that you can play throughout the story, but they are few and far between. For the most part, you're looking for an object that will link you to the next memory that goes further back in Johnny's life. And in order to unlock these memories, you must first find 5 objects or moments that stand out in that memory. Sometimes this is easier said than done. A couple of times I was completely lost and I had no idea how to move forward. But this is a game that I have no real qualms about looking up a guide for. This hide-and-seek game is basically the game's equivalent of turning the page. Once you find all 5 keys, you will need to do a small puzzle to unlock the link. And that's kind of it. The rest of the game is just story, so it's about now that I'm going to spoil the fuck out of this game. Again, this game is absolutely worth your time, and it's fairly short. I was able to finish it in 1 sit-down session while collecting this footage. This is a story you will want to experience yourself rather than have it spoiled for you. If my short back-of-the-book summary didn't do it for you, consider this. I can think of 3 pieces of media in my memory that made me absolutely bawl like a baby. Just straight up ugly cry. And of those 3, To the Moon is the only one not set during the Holocaust. Are we good? Is everyone here just the people who have already played the game or don't mind having this absolutely beautiful story spoiled? Yeah? Okay, good. Now let's get to crying. Something that should be noted right out of the gate is how gorgeous the music is. There's a lot of poignant scenes throughout this game, and whenever we're discussing it, just picture the most fitting music possible playing in the background. As if on cue, we open with two kids playing a piano. It's a nice piece and is used as a leitmotif throughout a lot of the game's soundtrack. I've just started this game and I'm already starting to tear up. This nice, simple melody is interrupted by a car crash outside, so the story starts as it means to go on. This is how we are introduced to our two playable characters, and this opening scene does a great job of showcasing who these two characters are. Dr. Eva Rosalene is a no-nonsense but caring person. She's here to do a job, and she believes that doing her job is the kind thing to do. She cares about her clients, but is realistic about what her job entails. Dr. Neil Watts, on the other hand, puts up a facade of glibness about almost everything. He believes in his job too, but often keeps a distance from his clients, which can feel cold at first. Often he will take part in gallows humor like you might see of people who work in morgues. The two of them make a good comedic duo. Eva makes a good straight man to Neil's goofball antics, and their banter is believable as two coworkers who have worked together for a while.
Night shift. Love 'em or hate 'em?
You know the answer, you stupid owl.
That's probably gonna be another all-nighter, you know.
I know.
And I doubt they'd have any coffee.
Shut up.
And the ocean waves will sing lullabies.
Not through your blathering, they won't.
And your eyelids will...
Don't forget the equipment, moron.
I don't get paid enough for this.
Once you enter the house, you are encouraged to look around before beginning the memory traversal process. The house actually has quite a bit of foreshadowing and world building if you take the time to really explore it. A thing this game's story does masterfully is setting up mysteries and intrigue. As you investigate the home, you'll find various aspects of it rather curious. In a way, this game is even more enjoyable the second time around once you have an understanding of what each piece of this puzzle represents. Why is there a room full of origami bunny rabbits? What's the deal with this old abandoned lighthouse? Why is there one rabbit that's made out of two colors while all the others are only one? All questions that do have answers, and each one is heartbreaking to various degrees. Once you're done exploring, you enter into Johnny's most immediate memory, and it is explained what exactly it is they'll be doing. Going back in his memories and changing early ones to create a false life that will have Johnny believe he went to the moon before he dies. In this scene, we learn several important things. 1. How the memory traversal works. Basically, there's an object of some significance in each scene that will jump them back to a previous memory also associated with that object. 2. That Johnny doesn't know why he wants to go to the moon. He just knows that he has to go there, add it to the list. And 3, it shows how each of the scientists take different ways to distance themselves from their client.
My name is Dr. Eva Rosalene, and this is...
Dr. Von Matterhorn. Dr. Lorenzo Von Matterhorn.
Dr. Neil Watts. We are here to fulfill our contract from the relative future.
Ooh, careful there. If you slip off the cliff, we're gonna have to reload this memory.
Watch it, Neil. Show some respect.
It's just a program, you know?
I know, but this is the last accessible memory, and we need its cooperation.
Worst comes to worst, we can just reboot it.
Why would you waste time like that?
At first, it feels like Neil is the one being the cold one, treating Johnny as just a piece of equipment that they can reboot if needed. His humor at the situation implying that it's all just a game to him. Eva seems warmer at first, but then you realize she doesn't actually care about the emotional well-being of Johnny. She just doesn't want to waste any time, and she knows that putting on the facade of caring is the fastest way to get the result they need. this approach of hers will come up later. The first memory they go to, they turn off their interactivity so they can just observe, Christmas Carol style. Find the next object and get to the next memory. A quick glance around the house and you can imagine it's not too far in the past. It's after the house was built, but given the lack of furniture, he hasn't been living there long. The fact that the piano was moved in before any of the other furniture, as well as all of the rabbits, is another example of this game's wonderful use of wordless environmental storytelling. It shows where Johnny's priorities lie at this moment in his life. The scene depicts Johnny playing the song For River that we heard the kids playing earlier, eventually stopping and slamming his hands down on the keys. We are seeing a lonely man who has not been alone in a very, very long time. The following scene is outside at River's grave shortly after her death. Johnny mentions Anya and that if River had made a different decision, she would still be here. So add those two mysteries to the pile. One of those mysteries will be answered almost immediately as we see River, now in her deathbed, refusing to receive the treatment that would save her life so that Johnny can afford to continue building their dream home. She wants him to build the house and stay there and look after Anya. Johnny clearly wants the exact opposite, but before he can really make his case, River presents him with that same blue and yellow rabbit from earlier.
Johnny,
Yes?
I made this. Tell me what it is.
What?
Just tell me what it is.
It's a rabbit. Like all the others you made.
What else?
It's made of paper.
What else?
Its body is yellow and the rest is blue.
Good. What else?
This exchange is a tiny little microcosm of what makes this story brilliant, and also a solid case for why you should play the game twice. What exactly makes this scene so great is, unfortunately, something we'll have to bring up later. But there's another aspect of this scene that's also absolutely brilliant, and I didn't even notice it in either of my playthroughs. I noticed while reviewing the footage. Another example of great non-verbal storytelling. See if you can catch it. Did you see it? Let's see it again. Earlier, it was established that Neil did not think of these memory projections as people. He sees them as pieces of equipment needed to do his job, willing to reboot them to get the result he needs. They turn on inactivity so that no matter what, they cannot interact with the world around them. So, that begs the question. Why does he move out of the way when Johnny walks towards him? Even if it's subconsciously, Neil moves out of the way so that Johnny can pass by and play his piano. He's beginning to sympathize with his client. He's starting to feel something for this man's situation, even if he doesn't realize it. It is so good! Despite the fact that we're going backwards through Johnny's memories, a lot of the story focuses around River, which makes sense. She's been the love of his life since high school. But this next memory does a really good job of digging into Johnny's mentality about the whole situation, being one of the few memories of adult Johnny's life that does not have River in it. One of Johnny and River's friends come to check on him as he is constructing the house he will eventually move into. He tells her that he knows that River values the house being made over her own survival, so he's going to lie to River and say that they can afford both the treatment and the house.
You shouldn't lie to her.
You don't understand, Isabelle. If she found out, I'm not sure what she'd choose.
So what? If she chooses not to save herself for the sake of this place, then so be it. It's what she really wants.
You think this is all about her? What about me, Isabelle? After all these years, am I not allowed to be selfish just once? I don't want to be alone, Isabelle. I'm not going to let her die.
That's arrogant.
I don't care.
River has some sort of neurodivergence that is never officially said out loud, but is highly suggested to be autism or Asperger's. Johnny has been married to her for decades and was dating her for years before that. A lot of people might look at the scene and hate Johnny for being so selfish, but I don't. At first, yes, Johnny seems like he's being a jerk here, but we're only seeing him at the end of his rope right now, not the years leading up to it. Not yet, anyway. After an entire lifetime of putting other people before yourself, sometimes you have to do what's best for you, even if others might not agree. It's a hard lesson for some of us to learn, but sometimes you have to be selfish. The next scene has us in a pub with Johnny, River, and their two friends. You may have noticed in the previous scene that his friend was just a little blurrier than anyone else has been in the memories. But now that we're out in public, it becomes even more apparent. You look around at all the people and see that they're just silhouettes. That's when you remember, oh yeah, we're in Johnny's memory. He doesn't remember the faces of random people who pass him by, so they would just be inky blots to him. His close friends he has a clearer picture of, which is why they're just a little blurry. The lone exception is River. She was so integral to his life that he never once, not even for a moment, forgot her face. Which is another great example of subtle visual storytelling, and no, I will never stop singing this game's praises, bite me. In this scene, Johnny tells his friend that he confessed something to River not too long ago, and since then she's been constantly making those rabbits, adding a bit more intrigue to that particular mystery. After watching Johnny and River talk about their plans to save up and build a house overlooking the lighthouse, which is revealed to be the Anya that River mentioned earlier, Eva and Neil have an exchange that I feel sums up the main theme of this story pretty succinctly.
Good for them.
You gotta be kidding me. You remember what happens, don't you? It's like watching a train wreck.
The ending isn't any more important than the moments leading to it. The important thing is that over here, they're happy.
Just because bad times are on their way, or bad times have happened in the past, it doesn't make the happy moments, the ones that really matter, any less important. Throughout this game, we see a lot of sadness, and we see a lot of happiness. Neither is more or less significant than the other, and neither cancels the other out. I think it's a beautiful sentiment, and a good way to go about life, quite frankly. That being said, let's do another sad scene, shall we? We appear in Johnny and River's old house, and we see when River begins her rabbit folding obsession. And while she's working on it, she has a platypus doll resting right next to her. Johnny and River then exchange a very familiar conversation.
What are you making there?
Rabbits. Did you see the rabbit I left for you?
Yeah.
Tell me about that rabbit.
Huh?
Describe the rabbit.
It was yellow,
What else?
a bit puffy.
And?
Well, it's just a paper rabbit. I don't know how else to describe it.
Something that I feel is as good a time as any to bring up is how much I love pixel art. I love how you can convey an enormous amount of emotion with what comes down to just a bunch of squares lined up in a face shape. To give an example, in the next scene, we see the end of Johnny's previously mentioned confession. He had apparently just been talking about when they were back in high school and they first started dating. He apologizes for tarnishing their first meeting like that. And River gives him a look. And with that limited amount of expression she can convey, either due to her condition, the limits of pixel art, or both, that look speaks volumes. This silent moment screams so many unspoken words. This is another scene that I need to come back to, as it says so much with so little. It's in the next scene that I think we get the most insight into River as a person. We're in a bookstore sitting area with the two friends while River is off on her own. They discuss River and how she views and interacts with the world.
Everything was okay at first, but now she's even more aloof than before. Even when we're in the room, she's never really there. It's starting to take a toll on me. I just don't know how to take it anymore.
Well, I can't speak for her, but many of us do long for connections. Though being able to articulate it is a different story. Just because she struggles to express it doesn't mean she doesn't feel anything. She's still there, right? Sometimes you just have to have faith that she cares.
And she is 100% correct. River does have a lot of emotions. She wants to express them so badly, but she just can't. Not in any conventional way. So she does what she can. She cuts her hair to look how she did when she was younger. She repeats dialogue. She makes rabbits. She brings out the platypus at every opportunity. She does everything she can to try and spark his memory. River wants nothing more than for Johnny to remember, but she can't just come out and say it. She needs him to come to her. She can't reach out on her own. She can't be the one to admit that the Emperor has no clothes. But nothing she does works. Or does it? Maybe, somewhere in the back of his mind, all of her prodding does trigger something. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue. This next scene is... God, this one's gonna make me tear up. This next scene is immediately after Johnny and River get married. And see if you can spot what makes this scene in particular so special. If you've been paying attention, every scene in the memories so far have been slightly blurry and grainy, just like a lot of memories are. Nothing is quite in focus. But not this time. The moments in their lives where they just announced to the world that they were in love, and the moment where everything changes for them is crystal clear in Johnny's memory. This moment, where they sit by Anya, decide her name as if it was their own child, and Johnny talks about how different he feels now. He has no issues remembering this. And it leads into one of the most beautiful and romantic moments in the story, where Johnny leads River up to the top of the lighthouse and they dance in the moonlight. And then, realistically and hilariously, one of them steps on the other's foot and they get right back to dancing in each other's arms. Goddamn. It shifts into the moment of their actual wedding, and we get a very curious interaction between Eva and Neil.
Ugh, the wedding.
Yeah. What did you think that was?
I'm just bad at weddings, that's all. Fluids tend to escape from my eyes.
I didn't know you were that sentimental.
Oh, did I say my eyes? I meant my mouth. And by fluids, I meant both fluids and solids.
That's a lovely image. Thanks, Neil. Come, let's find a way to get out of here.
Well, this happiness and joy is really putting you off too, huh?
No, I just don't like watching people make mistakes.
Sheesh, whatever happened to just take it moment by moment?
We see Neil getting sentimental about the happiness and love of Johnny and River, but the moment he's teased even a little bit about those feelings, he immediately clams up and uses humor as his defense mechanism again. But even more important than that, while we see Neil beginning to care about his client, we see Eva further distancing herself from it. Perhaps by this point, she's realized what may prevent Johnny from reaching the moon. She sees a possible move she'll have to make, and she's doing her best to untangle herself from any sort of empathy that she may have exhibited before this, so that it will be easier to do what's necessary when the time eventually comes. They move on to the reception and find that Johnny's mother always calls him Joey as a nickname. But just as before, the animation of River's look implies 1,000 words. At the mention that his mother always calls him Joey, River glances over at him because she's heard his mother call him Johnny. She hasn't always called him Joey. Why is he giving this reason? Doesn't he remember that moment as clearly as she does? The next port to the next memory is a rabbit roadkill, which River seems to be obsessing over, possibly seeing it as a metaphor or an omen. Up next is one of my favorite parts of the game. Johnny and River are out on horseback riding in an open field, and you are made to join them. It's just a lot of fun. This is the first area of the game that you're given complete freedom to just fuck around. In fact, it's encouraged. The way to unlock the next memory is to ride around on your horse, by experiencing the same thrill and joy that Johnny and River are feeling. This sense of unrelenting freedom is paired with Johnny and River unabashedly having fun together, which you realize is the first time you've seen them do that. And much like Merlin tearfully saying hello to an old friend for the first time, you realize this also means that it's possibly the last time they have fun together. In fact, I was having so much fun riding around that I solved the memento puzzle and then went right back to riding around on my horse. Probably because I knew what was coming and I didn't want to leave. In a moment of ludo-narrative synchronicity that will rip out your heart and show it to you later. There's also a moment of subtle character building here. Remember earlier when Neil stepped out of Johnny's way, even though he claimed to be so detached from what was going on around him? Well, look what happens here. In the next scene, we see a doctor's office where River is officially diagnosed. We're still never told out loud what she has, but the doctor loans her a book by Tony Attwood for more information on her condition. A quick Google search and we find that Tony Attwood is a psychologist who published several books on Asperger's and autism. So while River's condition may not be spoken out loud, we have a better idea of what it may be. The doctor then encourages Johnny to also read the book. He refuses, for reasons unclear at the moment, but once they do become clear, it makes Johnny look like a complete and total dickwaffle. Neil's kinship with Johnny is pulled to the forefront in the next scene, where we see Johnny in the movie theater alone as a teen. Neil admits that he also goes to the movies alone, but has come up with a clearly rehearsed reason about how he's too sophisticated to see movies with other people. Seeing Johnny get stood up elicits another comment from Eva about the similarities between teenage Johnny and Neil. But when it's revealed that River was, at the date, just hilariously not sitting next to him, Neil finds himself speechless. I imagine this is a scenario that younger Neil probably would have killed for, which is really driven home in the next scene where we see Johnny trying to psych himself up for talking to River for the first time and asking her out on a date. And Neil is literally yelling at him to stop being a wuss and just go for it.
That's a cool platypus you got there. What are you reading?
A book.
About platypus?
No.
Oh, I think that's great.
Ugh.
I cannot tell you how many times I've done the "a book" response that River does here. You have no idea what video games are. Why are you asking me what I'm playing? You're just gonna make fun of me. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Moving on. After seeing a few glimpses at Johnny spending time at school with his best friend, we eventually come to a scene in the cafeteria before he asks River out. His friend talks about how weird she is, and Johnny reveals why it is that he likes her in the first place.
Look, Nick. I just don't want to be another typical kid in a sea of typical people.
But how the heck would being with her change your identity? I mean, you just be some guy who hangs out with a shy girl.
She's not just shy, Nick. There's something strange about her.
Being strange isn't always a good thing, you know? Do you even know if she wants to be different? Maybe she just wants to fit in like everyone else. And if she does, pushing her the other way wouldn't help, would it?
Look, Nick, the point is that I know what I need, and she's the one that has it.
So you want her for what she has, but not her? That's cold, man.
If you've watched my Catherine video, you know how I'm not much of a fan of my high school self. But I remember a time when I was also desperate to be unique, to be separate from the crowd. I wanted nothing more than to go against the current, regardless of what the current might have been. In some ways, that aspect of myself never really went away. When everyone says something is great, my knee-jerk reaction is to ignore it. I find more joy in finding lesser-known properties and recommending them to people. So, to a certain extent, I get where Johnny's coming from. He wants something other than the typical. It's still bullshit how he's being an emotional sponge rather than trying to be his own unique person. I don't think anyone will ever deny that. Years later, that will manifest in him not wanting to learn more about his soon-to-be wife's condition. He'd rather keep the mystique than do what he can to help her fit in more. Eva and Neil come to the conclusion that this must be what it is that he confessed to River on the cliff that day. That when he first talked to her, he only did so because of her strangeness. And it's after that confession that she started making the rabbits. The next scene is a bit less consequential. Johnny gets ready for school, his mom calls him Joey again, and says her boy's growing up. Yep, that's it. Nothing traumatizing or heartbreaking happening here, no siree. Don't even know why I brought it up, really? Honestly, the most traumatizing part of this scene is how fucking long it took me to find all the memory links. This is the part I looked up a guide for. Somehow, I was not able to intuit that you needed to sit down on the couch to get the last one. And then in the next It seems we've reached the end? The memories stop dead here. For whatever reason, they can't seem to access any of his memories earlier than the one with his mother in the kitchen. Now that we have accessed all of the memories we can, it's our job to try and figure out where in the memories would be the best place to tweak things to convince Johnny to go to the moon. They explain in detail to the older Johnny memory they talked to earlier how exactly it is that they'll be using the memories and desires, and why it is that they can't just poof him to the moon now.
So you see, even if we satisfy you, you are merely a read-only program. I mean, we could reset you over and over again and...
That's enough.
Don't be so sensitive. He's not real, you know.
If you truly believed that, why did you even care to explain? I'm just trying to save time.
Another example of Neil being more emotionally attached to the subject than Eva, even though it may not seem like it at first. We then play a short little minigame of connecting the memories so that the desire can flow back into his past, and when we return to the present memory, everything is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. For whatever reason, despite the strong desire being implanted earlier, he took absolutely no steps to change his life and go to the moon by the time he was older. So the game now becomes trying to figure out the reason the desire isn't doing anything, fixing it, and then pressing the OK button. They try to go to specific memories and change things so the moon and the desire to travel there is a much more prevalent force in his life, ranging from subtle things like changing the movie he saw with River as a teenager to pretending to be a rep from NASA and straight up telling Johnny to his face to go to the moon. Nothing seems to be working. They decide to leave the machine and call it a night, hoping that a night's sleep will provide some sort of spark of inspiration. During their research and digging, they find Johnny's medical records and find that when he was young, he took enhanced beta blockers that had the unfortunate side effect of messing with his memories. It is implied that he took them with the memories being blocked being the intended effect, thus accounting for his formative years being completely blocked off to them. Realizing that the early memories have to hold the key to the desired effect, they reconfigure the machine to circumvent the beta blockers and access his early childhood. The doctor looking over Johnny tells them that his condition is fading fast, so whatever they do, they better do it fast. Even though the machine has been recalibrated to allow them to walk in these memories, it's clear that it's still not entirely stable. Multiple copies of people walk around in the same area, parts of the environment are still falling apart, but otherwise, this scene is perfectly peaceful and friendly. And Eva seems to notice this game's knack for environmental storytelling as well, as she claims to have noticed something in the previous memory. Those with eagle eyes may have noticed it as well.
Maybe I was wrong after all. I mean, this place, it's so peaceful. The only thing in this memory that could do such a thing would be... Shit! Duh! We need to go back, now!
Wait, what's going on now?
Just shut up and come.
I don't understand. If he was unconscious, how would he be seeing this if he never did? Still, I'm just surprised he survived.
Actually, he didn't.
What?
Didn't you see it in his room, Neil? Johnny slept on a bunk bed.
Joey! Joey, can you hear me? Joey? Why did you hit Joey, Ma? Why did you hit him? Joey, wake up, Joey! Wake up!
We see in the next couple of scenes how much Joey meant to Johnny. They had similar interests. They fought a lot, as siblings often do. And it's absolutely no secret that their mom vastly favored Joey over Johnny. There was a lot that I didn't mention in this video, as I like to keep some things secret for people to discover when they play the game themselves. But it's clear that after Joey was taken from him and after his mother went off the deep end, Johnny takes it upon himself to replicate Joey as much as he can. And even after taking the beta blockers and any memory of his twin brother being a fuzzy haze, he still maintains those traits. Perhaps in a way of honoring the memory of a brother he doesn't even remember having. But enough about that. Hey, look, a carnival! Yay! Fun times! Let's play whack-a-mole, guys! And hey, look at Johnny hanging out with his definitely still alive brother. It's so nice and not at all traumatizing right now. Ooh. God, I need a drink. It's while Johnny is sneaking off away from the carnival that we get to watch one of the most important scenes in the game. the one that answers more questions than any other. Because you see, Johnny wasn't the only one who snuck away from the fair. A young River joins him, and they talk about a lot of things. About how John hates his name because there are so many who have the same one, and how he wishes he could be more unique. How River wishes that she was less unique. They talk about the stars and constellations, and they try to make a bunny rabbit.
Think big. Bigger than all the others?
I don't know. Wait a minute. I see it!
Tell me what you see.
There, right? There are the 2 ears and the head.
What else?
And there are its 2 feet.
Yes, what else?
And the moon. The moon is its big round belly.
River goes on to admit that she's always seen the stars as lighthouses. Billions of lighthouses. How they can see all the other lighthouses out there and so desperately want to connect with them. But they can't. All they can do is shine their lights from afar and hope that someone, anyone, notices them. And Johnny hands her a gift. A platypus doll he won at the fair, before his mother calls his name and he has to leave. Johnny promises that he'll be here, same time next year. River wonders if he'll get lost or forget, and Johnny says that if he does, and they can't see each other anymore, then they can meet up again on the moon. Right on the rabbit's tummy. Fuck. I'll be honest with all of you. I had to step away from the script for a little bit after that scene because I'm never quite ready for what happens after this. Eva is content that she now knows the reason why it is he couldn't go to the moon. Neil doesn't believe that she'll actually do it, but Eva reaffirms that it's their job and what they were hired to do. Sending the desire back wasn't enough. He needed a proper motivation to go there. Say, for example, to keep a promise. So by removing River from his life, Johnny will take the steps to go to the moon. Neil points out that the only reason he wants to go in the first place is because River died. And he didn't take this job to make this man miserable. Eva, coldly, tells Neil that it doesn't matter if it will make Johnny miserable because they were hired by Johnny to make him believe he went to the moon. And that's exactly what she intends to do, with or without Neil's help. For all of you aspiring writers out there who need to figure out a way to make two characters believably at conflict with one another, take fucking note. This is a goddamn masterpiece in storytelling. Throughout the story, we've seen Neil grow closer and closer to the client, becoming invested in his life and seeing himself in Johnny in a lot of ways. Eva, meanwhile, has been distancing herself from Johnny throughout the story because she was afraid this may happen. At the end of the day, she was hired to do the job. She believes that doing her job that the client asked for is the best way to make them happy. Neil sees their life for what it is and sees the happiness that is already there. Neither of them are wrong here. And their conflict rises completely organically and believably from who they are as people and their beliefs. They both want the same thing, Johnny's happiness. They just have completely different viewpoints as to how to go about it. Johnny's vitals in the real world are dwindling and they don't have time to argue ethics. Eva says she's got a plan and asks for Neil to trust her, but Neil can't just stand by and watch as Eva rips the main source of Johnny's happiness away from him. What follows is a sequence where Eva uses her admin powers to set up obstacles in Neil's way to prevent him from stopping her. You've just spent the past several hours witnessing Johnny's life. You care about these people. You've seen how much Johnny and River mean to each other, and as you control Neil, you feel just as frantic as he does to fix this mess. But no matter what you do, it's too late. Eva removes River from the memories just before Johnny would have asked her out on their first date. Neil tries to reverse it, but Eva has successfully turned off his controls. Johnny turns the corner and finds an empty staircase. It is at this point that the game takes out a knife, stabs you in your chest, and shows you your heart as it breaks it. Eva adds Joey back into Johnny's new life. As she said, he can always meet another River, but he'll only have one brother. With a new path in life created, we now see what becomes of all the memories Johnny had.
Short steps, deep breath, everything is alright. Chin up, I can't step into the spotlight. She said, I'm sad, somehow without any words. I just stood there, searching for an answer. When this world is no more, the moon is all we'll see. I'll ask you to fly away with me until the stars all fall down. They empty from the sky, but I don't mind if you're with me, then everything's alright. Why do my words always lose their meaning? What I feel, what I say, there's such a rift between them. He said, I can't really seem to read you. I just stood there, never know what I should do. When this world is no more, the moon is all we'll see. I'll ask you to fly away with me until the stars all fall down. They empty from the sky, but I don't mind if you're with me, then everything's alright. If you're with me, then everything's
I think the thing that strikes me so much about this scene is that it's not just Johnny's memories that are being erased here. Throughout the game, we've grown attached to these characters. We've come to appreciate the ups and downs and finer nuances of this romance. We treasure these moments just as much as Johnny does. These are our memories with these people that are being erased. Remember how much fun you had horseback riding? No, you don't. It didn't happen. That awkward first date? Don't worry about it. It was just a group of friends. Hey, remember how there was that rabbit roadkill before Johnny and River's wedding? Good news! The bunny is okay now because there was no wedding for someone to accidentally run over it at. In case anyone is curious, this scene is where I ugly cried the first time I played this game. Specifically, the horseback riding scene. I was holding it together, and then that happened, and I started screaming, "No! Fuck you!" at the screen. Not to mention the beautiful and fitting song performed by Laura Shigehara, ironically titled, "Everything's Alright. Everything is not alright, Laura Shigehara. Stop lying to me!" At Johnny's new job at NASA, we get a guided tour of the facility. All the while, Eva is confused that something specific is not happening in this new world. As the world begins to fade, the two scientists know they have only a short time and are hoping that Johnny gets to the moon fast. While at the same time, Johnny is introduced to his fellow astronaut, a young woman named River. This was the plan that Eva won in Neil's trust with. She didn't technically delete River from the memories, she simply moved her further down the timeline. The current world is a concoction of public records and Johnny's own memories and perceptions, so this River can still act the way that Johnny always knew her to. There's no guarantee they'll still end up together. It's up to the two of them to fall in love. I'm of two minds about this particular twist. On the one hand, I think we can all agree that seeing Johnny and River reuniting is wonderful and fills my heart with something so foreign to me I can only assume it's happiness. But on the other hand, the fake out does kind of undercut the emotional heartache of the memory erasure scene. Again, I go back and forth. Feel free to give your opinion down in the comments. I feel like I could easily be swayed to both sides on this. We see Eva and Neil watching the shuttle with Johnny and River take off as the life of the real world Johnny begins to fade. We see flashes of a possible future Johnny and River might share, full of just as much love as the previous one, as the two of them finally meet back up on the rabbit's tummy. As the EKG machine signals the end of Johnny's life, that then smoothly transitions into the ending song in a move that is frankly, frustratingly well done. Eva and Neil get the call for their next patient, I get hyped to play the next game in the series, and the game comes to a close. Fuck, dude, what else is there even to say? This is, hands down, the greatest love story in video game history. And do you want to know why? Because it doesn't sugarcoat it. We see just as many downs as we do ups in their relationship. You never see that. You never see people actually putting in the work to stay together. You see the dramatic moments that lead up to the first kiss or confession of love, but here, you see everything. Even past all the frustration, the unsuccessful attempts at communication, this is a story about two people who were truly, deeply in love with one another. And that's to say nothing about the absolute mastercraft of a story and setting being realized here. Even after playing through the game twice, I was still noticing little details for the first time while creating this video. Themes of love and loss and enjoying each moment and appreciating the people and places in your life. They're so expertly woven throughout. I applaud Ken Gao and everyone at Freebird Games for telling one of my favorite stories that I've ever had the absolute pleasure of experiencing in a video game. Even if you just watched my video and didn't take my advice at the beginning, I strongly encourage you to play this game for yourself. If for no other reason than to show this development studio that they are doing good work and to keep moving forward. Now, all I gotta do is play the next one. Can't be any more heart-wrenching than the last one. Right, guys? Guys? Oh no. Hoo boy, that one was a doozy. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I put a lot of time and effort into this project, and I think it turned out pretty good. Longest video I've ever made about the shortest game I've played on the channel. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of my wonderful actors who lent their voices to this project. You can find their credits and links to their social media in the description. If you enjoyed what you saw, why not consider giving it a like and subscribing? I've got a lot more coming down the pipe, so keep an eye out for that. I'm also legendarily bad at self-promoting, so if you feel like sharing it around, I would really appreciate it. And hey, I hope you're having a good day. And if you're not, I hope it gets better. Toodles!